Hey there, welcome to Coffee Break Plan. Today I'm doing my monthly reset. It's Plan With Me February, and I'm going to start with my DIP planner, which is where I do all my work and personal task and time management. It's also where I set out my goals and plan time for all my creative projects. Now, before I get too deep into it, I'm just going to say I did record audio for this while I was doing it, and then I lost it, so I had to do a voiceover, and this is nowhere near my favorite way to do any kind of audio. So let's get cracking. So I'm starting with my personal section, and I've been experimenting with using my stencils, which I'm tearing out here, to add a little bit of extra structure and some extra colour to my dashboard layouts that I do for each week. But before doing that, I'm updating my monthly spread, which I use an undated spread from Squared Plans. And that's simply because I don't like these Sunday starts that they have in Happy Planners. So I printed out my own and put it in here, and I would go through and date it. Fortunately, it was already dated, so I didn't have to do that. I have no idea what I'm talking about in the original footage. It really could be anything. So now we're into the weeklies for February, and I've gone through and put some dates in. Since I'm using an undated dashboard layout, you need to go in and manually put the dates in. I'm also doing a little bit of tidying here where I'm just whiting out some of the incorrect dates that I had in there and an item that I no longer have to do. And now we're ready to continue on and do the rest of the month and make sure that's all tidied up. Of course, because I'm using an undated layout, I get an extra week every single month for those months where you get a 5-week month, which means I have too many pages sometimes in these months. So what I'm going to do is take these extra 2 pages out and pop them away somewhere where I can use them another day. So with that done, I can now turn back to the first week of February. Now I'm only going to do the first week because I don't know how this layout is going to work with all the additional pieces that I'm putting in, and I'm still trialing things. So rather than go ahead and do the whole month and end up with a whole lot of stuff that I don't like and want to change, if I do 1 week at a time, then I can change things as I go. So I'm going to go through and put in a few extra bits and pieces into all of this layout, but the dashboard layout is already quite structured and has a lot of little boxes, so I don't want to overcomplicate it. So I'm just adding a few embellishments just to make it that little bit easier to use as the week goes on. So the first week of February we have a public holiday, and that is the 6th of February, which is Waitangi Day. So I'm going to put that in first up. So the first thing I'm doing here is putting in a bar at the top of each day, and I'm going to use that same avocado coloured marker throughout. And I'm using my stencils that I've been using for the past month or so as my bookmarks. They were bought with the purpose more of bookmarks that were see-through. They were the only ones I could find that I could see through for both sides of the spread. But now the time comes that I'm actually going to try them out and use them for what they were intended for. So I'm just putting in some lines here, and I'm going to colour them in, and they'll be there for any all-day events that I have. So the next step is to put in some small boxes. That's for events that occur during the day. So I'm not going to use the whole box. I have tried it and I found it just cluttered it up just a little bit too much. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the events in, and I'm putting a little square to the left there to see where there is an event, and I can tick it off when I've done it or attended it. So we're talking about events and appointments here, but I can't put all that in. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a little task list to the side of those events. And I do that Monday through Friday. On Sunday, I put in a weekly reset task list, and then I can just go through and tick that off on Sunday with obviously some room left just in case something else comes up. And Saturday I've left completely blank, and I will fill it in as I need it later on in the week, but for now I thought it might be a good idea to just leave it empty. Onto the left hand side here, and I'm going to start with that notes section down the bottom. I'm going to add a little section in there called creative task list. And that's where I'm going to put in the list of tasks that I identify in my creative section, which I'm going to fill out soon. So you'll see that there. I'm also going to split the task list into 3 pieces, and the top part of that list will be for tasks that I do each week. So those are reoccurring. At the moment, it's just housework and finances. The next section down is for tasks that I need to do that particular week, and the final section at the bottom is for the rolling tasks. And the rolling tasks are for something that doesn't necessarily have a due date or any kind of a time pressure. And I just keep on transferring them from week to week until I find the time or opportunity to do them, or alternatively, when they do become a lot more urgent and I have to move them up to the this week task list. Also here in the important and the looking ahead boxes, I'm going to set up a little bit of a structure for my goals. The important box is where I set up my monthly goals and I write down all the tasks that I'm expected to finish by the end of the month. And my looking ahead is my quarterly goals. And I write down the remaining tasks that are required to the end of the quarter in each section. And I've decided to split them off into the 2 main goals that I have at the moment, which are tramping and theatre. And I'm simply going to transfer the tasks that are already identified in the goals section of my planner into these boxes so that I can see what's due and when. I'm also going to sneak to the final week of February and write down another list of book covers. The final week is when I start to get ready for my reading journal and I need to print off all my book covers. So I keep an ongoing list in that final week, and then all I have to do is find them all online and then print them out and I'm ready to go. So here is the final product. Don't worry, I will go in there and shade those goals in a minute. So what this final dashboard gives me is one place to find everything I need to get done that week except for my work tasks, which is a whole separate part. And I can see what goals I have, when all the tasks are due, all of the creative tasks that I have set out for that week, plus all of my just general life tasks. And then I can assign those to a particular day if necessary. Having this one-stop shop with all my tasks listed that I can see at a glance every single week has been really, really helpful. And having just that little bit of extra structure and that little bit of colour is also really helpful at identifying all the bits and bobs that I need to get done each week and each day. Into my goals section now, and what I'm doing is I'm transferring all the tasks from my goals into the corresponding boxes that I have set up in my weekly dashboard. Onto my creative section now, and what I'm using here is a color block layout. And what I do is I divide this into 3 sections, and the top 3 is whatever my priorities are, and that's usually my YouTube channel. I usually have 3 videos on the go at any time, and I allocate tasks to that. And then the next one down is my theatre and writing, and the one at the bottom is any other factors that I need to consider. So for example, this week I think I have book club, so I'll write that down on that week so that I know not to book anything too big on that night. Then I go through and allocate a task to each day of the week, and I'm only allowed pretty much 1 task per evening because you just don't have that much time after work. And then for the weekends, I will set out any tasks and anything I want to get done in those 2 columns at the side there. And the weekend adventures there is where I put whichever particular video is due to be loaded at that time. This particular week, I've decided that my focus is going to be on arranging my show. There are a whole pile of little fiddly tasks that I need to get done, and then I can focus on the bigger task of set design and blocking notes. So I'm going to allocate those top 3 sections to my theatre tasks this week and get those things done. And now I'm going to do the final sync to my weekly dashboard, and I'm going to write those creative tasks down there so that I can see what I need to get done that week. And note that I'm using pencil for this because this kind of a thing changes quite a lot. So I want to make sure I have a little bit of flexibility and I can erase stuff without leaving a big mess. So that's it. That's week 1 of February all set out and ready to go. Into the last section, which is my work section. And again, I have my undated monthly here, which again, I very rarely use. So I'm starting to think I might get rid of them at some stage. And I'm just going to put the dates in for February. I decided to use a purple pen because I thought it would look different. It really doesn't. It looks pretty much the same as the black pen, but that's okay. Again, hardly used, so that will do. And then we're over the page into the first week of February for my work calendar. And again, I'm just using my little stencil and marker there. And I'm just putting Waitangi Day in there in my work calendar as well. And then to the left-hand side of the page, which is where all of my work week will be that particular week. And I'm just adding in a few headings for tasks and some events. And also noting that Tuesday is my travel day, so I'm just going to put in a little bit of a highlight to show that. I'm keeping most of it reasonably open because you never know what's going to come up in a work week, especially at the moment. So it's nice to have that space to add in extra stuff if I need it and not have to suddenly start whiting things out or use a different area. And with that, all the layouts for my first week in February are done. And I'm just going to put the stencils back in the front where I've been stashing them, and we're good to go. Onto my daily planner now. I'm just going to take out all the tissue paper that I use to blot my fountain pen. And I'm using the Sterling Ink Daily Planner. It is an A5 and it's in the tweed colour. I'm not going to be able to show you too much of this, obviously, because there's quite a lot of personal stuff in there. I do my daily journal entries. So I'm going to turn in and whip past that first page. Here is my health tracker, and I'm tracking the things that I can't control, and for whatever reason chose to mark my period in the same grey colour as the weekend, so I've blended in. So I've gone in and put the avocado colour over the top. Here are the things that I can control. It's things like my spending, whether or not I take a sleeping pill. I don't often take them, as you can see, how much sunlight I'm getting, whether I'm getting my 20 minutes of movement in. I started off the year, I was going to do that cross hatch pattern that some people use, and then I just found it too much trouble to keep up with where it was supposed to be. So I've just gone back to the really simple system of if I've done it or not done it, as the case may be, it gets a dot, and that's much easier to keep up with. And at the end of January is this double spread, which I intend to use for a selection of photos from the month. I've started doing that, but as you would have seen before, there's still a week and a bit to go in January. So I'm going to get started on that next month and print out a whole pile of photos that I quite like and then glue them down into this page here. So I have a monthly summary in photos of what happened. And spoiler alert, they will mostly be of my cat, I guarantee it. And just turning the page here, and we're going to go into do February's spread for the beginning of the month. And I'm just going to set up a few divisions in the page, and on the left top corner is where I put my photo of the month, and then on the top right hand corner is where I write down any TV programs we've been watching, any podcasts I'm particularly into. I quite like writing down how many podcasts I delete and how many I add, just to see how much stress I have in my life. And then at the bottom, I usually do a 3-card tarot spread, and then I go back later in the month and do a bit of a reflection on what I think it all meant, if anything at all. So I'm just setting out the little divisions here so that I can fill in those bits as I go. And then I'm also going to go ahead and put in my divisions on each daily page for the first week of February. I am keeping up with my time tracking. That is, I'm writing down what it is I spend my time on the left third of the page on each daily spread. And then I'm doing just a normal journal entry on the right hand side. And that's working really, really well. But I can see myself getting a little bit fed up with having to account for what I spend my time on. I'm not sure that I care about it that much. I used to do it years ago and I stopped doing it, and now I've remembered why I stopped doing it. It's because it's a bit tiresome and I don't use it. But for now, I've been quite happy doing it, so I've got everything all set up there, ready to go for that first week of February. And the final part of my monthly reset is to go through and do my reading journal. But of course, I have a whole separate video for that, so I will be doing that next week. So that's all for this week. I hope you've enjoyed that. Have a great week, and I will see you next time.